Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports fans out there like you and me. It is episode number 307, and in this episode, we're here to talk about my team, the San Francisco 49ers, and looking at how they did this past week. And yes, I am saying this past weekend because, well, we are fresh off the heels of, Thanksgiving weekend, the holiday weekend that has just recently wrapped up. Whether you had some turkey, ham, slams, all the ham and slams from this past weekend, an eventful weekend of football. Yeah, from Thursday to Friday to Sunday. Heck, even for all the non-sports fans out there, yes, even a little bit of wrestling, for good or bad reasons. But anyway, we're here to talk about my team, the Red and Gold team, the San Francisco 49ers, in our 13th edition of the Red and Gold Weekly Roundup, our San Francisco 49ers 2025 Week in Review number 13 in this episode. So before we get started, as always, hope you guys had a good holiday weekend, eating some good food, or if not, then I hope you had a good weekend regardless, or a good whatever you were doing. Make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media at Very Cold Lasagna on Twitter and Instagram, and make sure you rate and review the show if you happen to be listening to this on audio. And for all you people watching on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, what the heck are you waiting for? Please do it. And comment down below with your opinions on the topic at hand, that being the 13th week of this Red and Gold team, my San Francisco 49ers, and how they did or didn't do. We'll talk about that. And as always, share this with your friends, share this with your neighbors, share this with whoever's around you, whether it's your friends, a colleague at school or work. Share the good, the bad, the ugly about my team, and, well, this podcast in general, Very Cold Lasagna. That being said, now we could talk about my team and how they did this week. My San Francisco 49ers on this turkey weekend, they had to go out east for their Thanksgiving weekend to the land of the skid marks. Yes, the skid marks where you wipe your ass and then after you take a huge dump in the toilet. Yeah, it was that part of Ohio. That part of Ohio where, it was just a huge dump. The skid marks. They had to take on the skid marks, aka the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, I mentioned going to that game. Yes, even though they were named the skid marks, this is not a game to overlook for the Niners, because even though they were in a position that, well, they were 8-3 going to the game, then the Browns, regardless of their record, in the inverse, 3-8, you can't overlook two things: the wild card in the rookie quarterback, the ever so controversial rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who was making his second start, and you didn't know what you were gonna get out of him coming off his okayish first start in the NFL this last week against the Raiders. And then you have a top three defense in the NFL that was led by Myles Garrett. So you didn't know what exactly you were expecting against a Cleveland team that, yes, on paper, on record, that is pretty bad. But again, those are the two X factors: Shedeur Sanders and that top 5 ranked defense. And another thing to consider was, even though it shouldn't have been used as an excuse, was the bad weather. Going to this game was going to be raining and snowing. Well, yes, those were things that happened before the game, but then once it came game time, both of those things cleared out, and all we got was wind, like high winds. Those high winds was pretty bad. It was like 20 to 50 miles of wind from what I saw on the CBS broadcast. I was like, well, shit. It must have been really bad out there down in the land of the skid marks. So, yeah. So it was mainly just pretty windy. They were saying also that the rain and snow were going to come back later after the game. So the Niners dodged a bullet on that one, at least. So, yeah, overall, they dodged a somewhat bullet. But when it came to the win, I imagine that field goals were going to be hard to come by. Even passing was going to be hard to come by. So I was probably expecting more. It was going to be emphasized on the running game. So we were going to see how both teams were going to do in this game. So let's talk about this game. Sorry for the 49ers side of things. It was pretty much tough sledding. Tough sledding for the offense because, like I said, it was pretty windy out there. Like, very windy. 50, like more than 20 miles of wind, I imagine. So what did Kyle Shanahan do? What did Kyle Shanahan do to try to hopefully adjust his game plan? Well, as I mentioned, he went to the running game a lot. He relied on Christian McCaffrey and the short passing game from Brock Purdy to get things moving. Unfortunately, Christian McCaffrey didn't really do a whole lot, at least in the first half. He was only relegated to only 9 yards of rushing, and he had the goal line touchdown that was mainly set up by Sky Moore's big punt return early in the first quarter, which, by the way, this special teams unit has been doing pretty dang well in the last couple of weeks, and this was a great cherry topper for in Cleveland. But in terms of the running game, though, like at least in the first quarter, Myles Garrett in the front were doing pretty well. I guess they were really selling out to shut him down. And even Brian Robinson, too, when he had his moments. But anyway, yeah, most of the first half was pretty much rough sledding for the offense. But Brock Purdy did have a really good hurry-up drill with less than 20 seconds to go, throwing a big pass to George Kittle to set up what could have been a one chance at a goal line at a red zone touchdown, but they didn't have enough time to do it. They only had like 4 seconds to go, so they just used their last timeout and then got Matt Gay, the replacement kicker, to get a field goal, try it for a field goal. But the problem was they were on the windy side of the skid marks side of the field, so they were gonna try to do it. They were down, I believe, 8-7 at the time. And I thought they missed it. I thought Matt Gay missed it, but then because it hit the upright, but no, it actually went in. It actually went in. So yeah, I mean, it hit the upright. It banked it in. Hell, I'll take a bank shot field goal. And then they went up 10-8 at halftime. So I mean, can't complain about a bank shot field goal. In whether it's in wind or like clear skies, no wind, any of that. Like, you gotta take it where you can get it, I guess. But things started to pick up for the offense in the second half. Mainly because of the skid marks, being the skid marks, and that was pretty much the theme of the day for the 49ers. The Niners pretty much capitalizing on the skid marks, just being the skid marks. First was the fourth down Wildcat play that for whatever reason, Kevin Stefanski or whoever the offensive coordinator was, they decided to call that for some reason. And then they botched the snap, and then they turned it over via fumble. But even then, if they recovered the fumble, it was going to be turnover on downs anyway. But that's besides the point. They turned it into points when Brock Purdy threw a nice intermediate pass to Kittle, and then that set up this 3rd and goal situation because they didn't make the first 2 times. So what I liked about this touchdown after the botched 4th down from the skid marks is that rather than go to the tried and true Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan, he faked out the defense of the skid marks, and then he ran a little bit of a fake out, and then he had Brock Purdy bootleg it and then take it to the end zone himself. So they were up. Yeah, that was pretty much the first touchdown since like very early in the first quarter. I like the play call there, and that was like the most that Brock Purdy moved since what very early in the season. So yeah, you saw a lot of mobility in Brock Purdy in this game. So he also later threaded the needle to Juwan Jennings to extend the lead 23-8 after what was a muffed punt from the skid marks. So more opportunistic points from the 49ers. Although I'm not sure why they went for 2 after that, but it didn't end up mattering anyway. So yeah. I feel like, the offense was very opportunistic with the skid marks, many mistakes in this game, and I guess you could kind of say the same about the defense, outside of allowing Quinshon Judkins to pretty much run over them for most of this game. But they did what they needed to do. Sure, there were still some missed tackles because that's what they love to do. And they let Shadur Sanders throw a nice ball in busted coverage to Harold Fannin Jr. I'm sorry for mispronouncing that name, for what ended up being their only touchdown. But I gotta say, I'll give them credit to Robert Saleh's younglings. They did well in key situations, like the fourth down stop on Judkins in the first quarter. And then Clem Farrell and Keon White combining for 3 sacks in the second half. That pass rush that has barely gotten to the quarterback. They got to Shadur 3 times in this game. Again, it's a skid marks, but hey, it's something. You got you play. I guess you got to play who you play at this point in the season. And the secondary, or as maligned as their coverage is, they kept tackling receivers short of the sticks in those key situations, like I said. So hey, like that's some decent situational tackling right there. So yeah, like I repeatedly said last week and the week prior, for as flawed as this being up team is, especially defensively, this young squad on defense that Robert Saleh has right now is getting much needed reps, and slowly but surely, I'd say they're doing a very solid job as we speak right now. So, when you look at the 49ers overall, coming out of this game in Cleveland, really good team effort. I'd say it was a really good team effort, despite the shitty weather conditions. But again, it's against the skid marks. But hey, you gotta take the wins where you can get them as you go on to the final 4 games of their season, and yeah, you get to the ones that are much tougher to close it out, like the Colts, the Bears, and the Seahawks, where you'll really be hopefully be battle tested by that point. Now, looking at the skid marks side of things, aka the Browns, when you look at the Browns, you think that, man, you think that you have a glimmer of hope. You think you'd have at least some glimmer of hope with this team when you had some flashes, Shadur moving the ball at least a little bit, and Quinshon Judkins was running the Niners defense into some portion of the ground, because just like with how the Niners started their day, their own offense struggled with ball movement. Like I said, Shadur did get a nice touchdown to tight end, the Fannin Jr. in busted coverage. But the offense was mainly about Quinshon Judkins because of the wind, literally, whether it was high sailing or just falling well short of receivers. Who, yeah, going back to Judkins though, he took advantage of the lack of a 49er run defense outside of an early 4th down stop. But once it came to crunch time, and once the 49ers and Robert Saleh figured out, this is pretty much what they're going to do. They're just pretty much going to use Quinshon Judkins for most of the game. Yeah, they managed to stop him the rest of the way in the second half. So Shadur Sanders was tasked to do more. And while he had a few decent throws, he managed to, move the chains on some occasions. He still held onto the ball for too long. He threw the ball out of bounds, and he eventually paid the price for it with 3 sacks in this game. The defense, they did all they could in this game. They rattled Brock Purdy for much of the day, but surprisingly, not really that surprisingly, it took them forever. It took them forever to touch him in this one. It took till the fourth quarter for Myles Garrett to finally get his hands fully on Brock Purdy, despite him and the front four's best efforts. Like, I mean, at least Myles Garrett could say, "Oh, I'm like 3 sacks short, 3 sacks closer to getting the single season sack record." But yeah, still doesn't account for much. I mean, I kind of feel for Myles Garrett, but then again, this is what he chose for. This is what he chose to do after getting, signing a big fat contract, and when he initially requested a trade. They did lose Malik Collins in the third quarter, which looked like a pretty bad leg injury when he got carted off, and that's never a good sign to have for the Browns in a pretty lost season already. And then Shelby Harris had to leave twice in this game for an injury I'm not really sure about. And then just when you thought when a game that was like close as it was in the like midway through the third quarter, it was still 10 to 8 by that point. The skid marks, of course, still began to do skid marks things at that point. It all started with the odd call to have Harold Fannin Jr. Do what seemed to be like a tush push on 4th down, and still in their own territory. Like, they were going for a tush push, but Fannin tried to snap the ball, but he fumbled it, and then he turned it over. But why would you even go for that on 4th down and in your own territory? Even if you didn't convert it, it was going to be turnover on downs anyway. And again, the Niners managed to convert that into points. 7, by the way. The offensive line was called for a personal foul deep in their own end zone, although I don't know why that wasn't called a hold or intentional grounding on Shadur, which should have led to a safety. But even then, that was still a mistake in of its own right. They're just lucky that didn't lead to points. But what did lead to points was, the Niners punting the ball, and then when the catcher called for a fair catch, the returner muffed the punt, and the Niners once again took advantage of that with a touchdown, which pretty much ended the game there for the skid marks. So it was pretty much a day where it was the same old skid marks, despite a few net positives. Myles Garrett trying to do his very best to keep his team alive along with the rest of the defense. He did get to Purdy, but it took him forever to do that. And Shadur, he had his signs, but still also showed a lot of reasons why he was still, maybe he was nearly undrafted in the first place. So when you look at this game overall for both of these teams, starting with my 49ers, you go into Cleveland against a tough defense and a wild card team, like far from that, a wild card quarterback in Shadur. Again, regardless of their record at what is now 3-9, they output one of their better team efforts of the season with very windy conditions, where throwing the ball was not really a realistic option, but that they would do in certain occasions. And then kicking a field goal wasn't exactly also a realistic option. And when you look at how this team did, they started off slow offensively because of that, but they overcame it by taking advantage of the Browns' various mistakes. Notably, like I said, also, Purdy was moving around a lot more in his third game back from the turf toe. And in contrast to the last game against Carolina, just a couple of days prior, last Monday, He made smarter throws, avoided turnovers that dreaded him last Monday. And even if he made some pretty bad throws, he overcame that, bounce back from them. And yeah, this was on a day that Christian McCaffrey was pretty much silenced in this game outside of a goal line touchdown, but that was pretty much it. Defensively, it held its end in key moments, and the special teams unit provided the best moments of what I've seen in quite some time out in the last 2 of 3 weeks. This being Sky Moore's big punt return and the fumble recovery and on the skid marks muffled fair catch, which led to a touchdown. So when you look at how the 49ers are right now going into their bye week, they're still the 7th seed in the playoff race. Like a full game ahead of the Lions and a bunch of other teams. But yeah, they still got a lot to work to once they come off of that bye in their final 4 games. And when you look at how things are now with the NFC West in the NFC West race, somehow, some way, they're still alive in it. They are still surprisingly somewhat alive in it because lo and behold, in I wouldn't say irony, their previous opponent, the Carolina Panthers, for as inconsistent as Bryce Young has been and that whole team is, they actually managed to pull an upset over the Rams. Yeah, I kid you not. So, yeah, the Panthers gave the Niners a little bit of a gift and shocked the Rams. So, yeah, the Niners are just 1 game back in the division. So, yeah, when they come off the bye, they could possibly make a run at the NFC West. But things still have to go their way. Not just for their end, because they have work to do, but for the Rams, for other things to happen for the teams opposing the Rams, and hell, even the Seahawks. So they got plenty of work to do coming out of the bye. Meanwhile, looking from the Browns' POV, the defense, they put as much heat as possible on Brock and limited the run game. But for as much as they did, Myles Garrett only got to Brock Purdy just once in this game. And defense even got faked out on a touchdown, on that touchdown run by him, which was kind of oof. Offensively, Shadur Sanders, he continues to show some decent flashes, but this man still needs to learn how to check it down instead of vying for the mid-range and deep ball game, because there were like plenty of moments where he would try to run out of the pocket, but he would just doesn't want to check it down. He just wants to like throw it, chuck it, and it's just not there. The Niners were just ready for that, and then that was very evident in the third and fourth quarter where he got sacked 3 times. So I guess the good news, the silver lining, is that he's starting next week against the Titans, a very bad Titans team. He's going up against Cam Ward, and that Titans defense. So he still has a month and change. The rest of the way, the skid marks are not going anywhere in the playoffs. They're not even making the playoffs at all. And this season is pretty much done. It's been done for the skid marks. But Shadur Sanders still has a month and change to prove to this coaching staff, if it's still there by after the season, and to the front office, into ownership, that he should be the starter beyond 2025. But again, when you look at this game specifically, it wouldn't be a skid marks game without skid marks things. So to wrap things up, and here we are. It took 13 weeks. 13 weeks, and then now we're finally on our vacay. We're finally on a full-on vacay for my San Francisco 49ers. It's the bye week. It is the bye week, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, the 49ers are finally on their bye week. They are one of 4 final teams to have their bye week alongside the Giants, the Patriots, and the Carolina Panthers. So I think this is the first time that the Niners have had the last bye week. I'm not sure. Maybe someone can quote me on that. But, there are pros and cons to having a late bye week, a mid-season bye week, a very early bye week. But, I mean, they've weathered. I'll give them this. They've weathered the storm. They weathered the storm of all these injury mania, running wild, and all the bull crap they had to deal with on and off the field. But now they got 2 weeks to prepare for the Titans game. In 2 weeks. But to close things out on this episode, on this Red and Gold week in review, let's focus on some things that the 49ers should focus on during their bye week. The number one thing is obviously, enjoy the bye week, first and foremost, from the 49ers POV, obviously, both professionally and personally. But getting healthy is the number one priority for this team, because I'm pretty sure most of the players that are playing right now are beat up. This bye week is so long overdue, especially heading into the final 4 games this coming month, and especially for Brock Purdy. He's still probably having the lingering effects of that turf toe heading to those final 4 games. And then coming out of the bye week, you need to get Yuta Gross-Matos, Jacob Counting, and whoever else essential ready to return from injured reserve that they can activate off of. And I would really I think Clinton Farrell is still on the practice squad. Maybe they can sign him on to the active roster if that's possible. So the main important thing for the 49ers during this bye week is to just get some rest. Get get healthy for the final 4 games. And then get some guys that are ready to return from injured reserve. Get them right. Hopefully they're ready to go. Looking well ahead to their next game coming off the bye against the Tennessee Titans when they come back in week 15 to close things out. Let's take a little bit of a quick look at them, because this past week the Titans they got blown out again. They got blown out again out of their own building at Nissan Stadium by their division rival, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Trevor Lawrence, 25-3. It was just another typical week in the office for this very crappy team, for this very crappy season for the Titans. And this was coming off 2 weeks of nearly upsetting 2 playoff hopefuls in the Houston Texans and the Seattle Seahawks. So they just completely disappeared in this game. And yes, somehow, some way, they're not yet officially eliminated from playoff contention, but they should have been they should have been listed as officially eliminated. But that's besides the point. They're currently sitting at 1-11 now, and technically eliminated, but not officially according to the NFL. But and they've already fired Brian Callahan, their initial head coach, back early in the season. But you look at this team, they are severely talent deficient around across the board on this roster. Aside from Jeffrey Simmons, I guess on the defensive side, there's no player that I would want to keep long term outside of Jeffrey Simmons on this roster. I mean, of course, aside from Cam Ward too, because he's your number 1 overall pick. But they have really set up Cam Ward to fail with this team. I mean, that doesn't mean Cam Ward is not without his own faults, but it doesn't help that, this front office, this ownership is doing him no favors with the lack of talent. And there's not a lot of positives to look at with this team. That being said, the Niners have 2 weeks to prepare for this team. They should not overlook this very crappy team that's very likely to be looking at back-to-back number 1 overall picks coming off their bye in terms of the 49ers. So while they're relaxing and resting for these next 2 weeks, they should take some time look at how they'll play, how they play, and how they'll do next week against the same skid marks team that they just played. So something to think about for my San Francisco 49ers, and also something to think about for you 49ers fans too. So yeah. So that's pretty much all I got here in this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. And let me know your thoughts on how the 49ers did, or in your mind, maybe something I missed in their Week 13 victory over the Cleveland Browns, aka the skid marks. Let me know how they did, and what your takeaways are in the comments below. And yeah, we get to enjoy a week off. We get to enjoy a little bit of relaxation, stress-free football that isn't the 49ers for at least a week or two, until they take the field next time in Week 15 against the Tennessee Titans, as we head into the final stretch of their season, and as well as the rest of the season in general for the NFL. So let me know your takes in the comments on YouTube, or if you're listening to on audio, in the DMs, slide into my Twitter or Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna, and let me know there. So that is it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. Now, this is episode number 307 of this icy yet spicy podcast. And yeah, in a couple of episodes, few episodes, you name it, we'll be back talking about my San Francisco 49ers. Not sure what we'll be doing about that, whether it's recapping, previewing the next game against the Tennessee Titans, but sooner or later, in the blink of an eye, it'll be that time to talk about the 49ers once again. But until that time comes, yeah, keep looking at the NFL, or just relax in general, until that time comes. Not sure where I was going. Maybe I was just relaxing my brain. But until that next time comes, peace out.